If you had picked up a copy of the New York Times on November 22, 1963, you would have seen the historic headline, "Kennedy is killed by sniper as he rides in car in Dallas." The article explains that the 46-year-old President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, died from an injury to the brain. If you look at the timeline of events that day, you'll find he made his last public speech at 9:25 a.m. He grabbed some breakfast after that. Then at 11:20 a.m. he boarded Air Force One and headed to Dallas. Somewhat sadly ironic, he landed at a place called Love Field where he was greeted by admiring fans. Surrounded by bodyguards, JFK smiles and shakes hands with people waiting behind the fences. In approximately 45 minutes, his life will be over. This event in some ways changed the course of U.S. history. As most of you know, a man called Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested for the murder. 3 minutes after the assassination, he left the Texas School Book Depository building. Around 30 minutes after the president was shot, doctors at Parkland Hospital announced that indeed, the beloved president to many was no more. At 1:22 p.m., police found a rifle hidden in the building where Oswald exited earlier. He was arrested soon after, but by that time, he'd already shot and killed a police officer on the street. He'd hidden in a movie theater after that, but was picked up by cops for the police officer slaying. Some hours later, he was charged with killing the president. Oswald himself wouldn't live much longer, being shot and killed by a nightclub owner called Jack Ruby in the basement of the Dallas Police Headquarters 2 days later. This is the bare-bones account of what happened that day and soon after, and we're not going to attempt to investigate what might have happened. Something called the Warren Commission concluded that Oswald acted alone and fired 3 shots. The FBI and Secret Service agreed. Nonetheless, many Americans didn't agree and still don't. There are numerous theories as to what happened that day, where the bullets came from, who did the firing, and who, if anyone, sanctioned the hit. This isn't a show about the multiple theories, but a show about a missing body part, namely the president's brain. If you look at the death certificate, you can find that JFK died from a shot to the skull, but he was also shot in the back. Part of the report written by JFK's personal physician reads that what happened was a shattering in type causing a fragmentation of the skull and evulsion of 3 particles of the skull at a time of the impact, with resulting maceration of the right hemisphere of the brain. In the crudest terms, he literally had part of his head blown off. You can see a diagram drawn by the House Committee of what damage the bullet to the head did, and after seeing that, you will surely agree that it would have taken a miracle to survive such an injury. That said, even though the impact was devastating, his brain didn't just explode. The skull was indeed fragmented, but it remained held by flaps of skin. This isn't a story about pieces of tissue or bone going missing in the street that day, or on the way to the hospital. What we're saying is that President Kennedy's brain is literally missing, the full item. What we want to know is, where is it? You see, JFK's brain was removed during the autopsy and stored in the National Archives. 3 years after that autopsy, it was gone. The president's brain had mysteriously sprouted some legs and taken off. That or someone had taken it. The fact that this brain had disappeared, of course, has sparked numerous conspiracy theories. Word on Conspiracy Street is that someone had sequestered the dead man's thinking organ because, had they not, it would have been revealed that he was not shot in the back of the head, but actually in the front, which would have somewhat challenged the Oswald did it alone theory. By the way, it's not a conspiracy theory that the brain vanished. It is absolutely true. If you were around in 1978, you might have seen a paper written by the Congressional House Select Committee on Assassinations, and in it, you'd have read that JFK's brain was officially missing. Okay, so what really happened? It's the million-dollar question. Some doctors at the hospital who were around for the autopsy would testify that they witnessed First Lady Jackie Kennedy holding the brain at one point, but not taking off with it. Others would say the organ was put inside a stainless steel box and then handed to the Secret Service. It was supposedly stored at the White House, and then JFK's brother, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, ordered that it be held in the National Archives. Is that true? Well, in 2016, the National Archives, under the Freedom of Information Act, released 3,063 documents that had been fully withheld since the assassination. The problem is, none of those files tells us where the brain is, and some sources tell us that the National Archives inventory didn't have JFK's brain on it. Anyway, if it was there, it's not there now, that's for sure. How an assassinated president's brain can just go missing seems totally absurd, especially when it's a piece of a puzzle that has conjured up so many conspiracy theories. Let's face it, the fact it's missing is enough to pique the interest of the least skeptical person. You don't have to believe the moon is made of cheese or that a spherical Earth is a joke to be very curious about where the brain went and why it vanished into thin air. There is a theory, though, that the missing organ may have been down to the brother. There was a book published in 2014 called End of Days: The Assassination of John F. Kennedy, and the author James Swanson said the brain might have been removed by Robert Kennedy, perhaps to conceal evidence of the true extent of President Kennedy's illness, or perhaps to conceal evidence of the number of medications that President Kennedy was taking. He said it could have been a face-saving operation by the sibling to protect his brother's name. It wouldn't be the first time a brain of a famous person went missing. Albert Einstein, one of the biggest brainiacs ever to walk the earth, had his organ taken by the pathologist who performed the autopsy, even though the family didn't know about it. He kept it for years, but now it's partly at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. Body parts of other geniuses and renowned people have gone missing in time and turned up again, such as Mozart's skull, Galileo's fingers, while the writer and revolutionary Thomas Paine was exhumed in the USA and then taken back to his native England only to go missing. Still, this seems more like ancient history, and the JFK assassination is still busy toying with conspiracy theorists' mind. In an interview with the Boston Magazine in 2013, that author we just mentioned, James Swanson, said he had meticulously researched the JFK assassination. He said there is no doubt whatsoever that President Kennedy was buried without his brain. The government records and reports prove that it's so. He added that he hates to say it, but it's just totally bizarre. The reason he doesn't like saying it is because there are so many myths and conspiracy theories about the assassination already. But the missing brain is real, make no mistake about it. He said documents show that it was at the National Archives, but it wasn't alone. His exact words were that it was placed with dozens of medical glass slides from the autopsy, tissue samples, blood samples, and bone fragments. Then it was discovered on all days of Halloween on 1966 that not only the brain but the entire locker and autopsy materials had vanished, and those materials have never been seen since. As you know, he thinks the brother took it, and he certainly doesn't think it was taken because there was evidence pointing toward Oswald not doing the killing. He thinks what happened is the official version of events. In his words, this is why Robert Kennedy took the brain, to preserve his brother's legacy and image and legend. John F. Kennedy was very sick through much of his life. He was in great pain. He was taking multiple medications. That was never known to the American people. Still, a cleanup operation by the brother to ensure the American people's bubble didn't get burst regarding their legendary leader might be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. Do you have a theory? We're sorry we couldn't give you answers because this is still an enduring bona fide mystery. Tell us where you think the brain is in the comments. Also, be sure to watch our other video, The JFK Assassination: What Really Happened. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.